at the same time, So
as a matter of interest, Dave, why do you think the follow thing works better than the connection side of things?
I just think the connection thing almost. Well, I watched a post of some guy who basically quite a while ago changed his button to follow, and he found that when he was putting posts out, he was getting more people wanting to see more of his stuff, and therefore, they were clicking follow more often. So I thought, oh well, let's give this a bash for a week and see what happens, see if it makes any difference. And I guess there's maybe, I guess if you've got Connect, it's maybe comes across you're maybe just a bit more open to just you might connect with anyone. Maybe with follow, there's a bit more of a staged process to it. I don't know.
Yeah, interesting, huh?
Yeah. Give that a try.
I suppose you always want to know the metrics that sit around this, and I think once you get to a certain number of connections, if you're sat with 1,000 connections, you might still connect, but once you're at 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, what's the point in 5,000? It doesn't. You want people engaging with what you do, don't you? So exactly. If that works, right, that's interesting.
Yeah, I'd rather have 1,000 people that were really active, engaging, with commonalities than 20,000 people that were wanting to sell me double glazing.
Aye, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Anybody else?
I've had 3 posts go on trending since I've started the course. Like 3 of my posts have actually been on the trending hashtag. So that was quite surprising. And after changing out my headline, I noticed a lot more people started to connect with me and also started to reply, as well as people started to reach out essentially and say, oh, I'm actually really interested and I've been looking for a vendor for this particular offering. So it's quite serendipitous that you managed to send me a request this week. So yeah, I think that was quite nice.
Can I ask what is a trending hashtag? Can you just explain that?
Yeah, so basically for every single hashtag, people are basically posting multiple posts or articles, right? So say, for example, you've got hashtag innovation. You've got thousands and thousands of people posting under hashtag innovation. Now, if your post is trending, it basically means that it hits a certain content score with LinkedIn that makes it a really, really good post. So anyone who's following that particular hashtag, which is hashtag innovation, your article or your post comes at the top or within those. So out of the tens of thousands of people who've posted under that hashtag, your post was one of the few that was really, really good, and it has gotten a seat within that hashtag.
Nice.
Yeah, so to Fraser's point about metrics, how do we find out whether our articles are working or are trending? Other than just having a lot of likes and things.
It gives you a notification, actually. So when your post does go trending, it gives you a notification saying, hello, your post has been trending for this particular hashtag. So mine was trending for shopping and augmented reality, for example. So LinkedIn actually sent me a notification saying your post is trending for these particular hashtags. And it shows you what level you're at as well. And the good thing about being on a trending hashtag is the fact that those posts tend to get a lot more engagement from people who potentially would not have seen it, even if they're not second or third degree connections.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, no, it's interesting, isn't it? Right. So and did you find the likes and views go up when that's happening, or?
Yeah, significantly, actually. It was for posts that I genuinely did not really think that they were worthy of getting on that hashtag, but once they did, till date, there have been people who've been liking and commenting and reaching out to me based on that post. So that was quite interesting.
I think it comes back to the quality of your headings, the quality of the text that you're using, right? The quality of how you write it out. Yeah, there's a structure there that LinkedIn likes, and then the response from people around gets that started, and then you've got this you get that momentum going. Yeah? So the problem is that nobody knows the algorithm exactly, right? So you just got to stay current with it, and they do change it. So there's no doubt that it changes on a regular basis. So, but that's why you have the group, right? And then we all talk, and you see it, and you all realize it's changed, or someone makes a post, and the word gets around, and you've got to reinvent what you do and start again. Yeah. So, Facebook's quite interesting. I think they made it very difficult for business posts to get out there, engage without paying, right? So you almost got to pay on Facebook to access your network. So I think LinkedIn's a little bit easier at the moment, but I'm assuming that's going to change at some point in the future. So we should be making the most. Anyway, apologies for changing today's session. I thought I had a training session today for the Singapore Management University, but it was the walkthrough I'd looked at, right? And actually the session was on Friday, so I sort of had to swap both things around. So I really appreciate you all coming on at short notice. I know I sort of not giving you a full week to get stats and questions around what you're doing and things like that, but much appreciated. So sorry, apologies. Usually I'm pretty organized, but it was my mistake. So it was, Monica was cursing me.
Fraser, I learned one thing during the week, which we discussed, which was when you do a poll, you can't post the photograph.
Yeah.
And I did a thing on Sunday morning, which got 5,500 views, which was surprising for that time of day. But I posted a cool photograph and had a narrative which says, look, these are 3 things I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? So it was a narrative questionnaire, but supported by a lovely photograph. And I think I got more engagement that way than having the poll, because polls are quite prevalent just now, and obviously this group is experimenting with it, and it's almost like people are polled out, perhaps. I don't know other people's views.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Right. So I wondered how you got on with that, and again, it doesn't come back to what do you like best.
No, it's what
right.
works.
It's comes back to what works, right? What gets impact, right? What and remember what we're trying to do here, right? I'm not giving you the holy grail of unlimited leads or, the solution to your model here, right? What we're doing is sitting with you and saying, how do you use LinkedIn as a LinkedIn expert, right? How do you use it and how do you work your way through it? And think about when you're learning something here, right? You learn the basics, you use it, you experiment. And then at the end of this, you have to sit down and say, what's my model going forward? Number 1, what's sustainable? Number 2, how much time do I allocate to it? And most importantly, what's my objectives here, right? Because we don't want to do things that are nice, right? We want to do things because it's the right thing to do. And each of you has got a different set of goals and objectives that sit around what you're doing. So now is the time to experiment, and over the next 4 or 5 weeks, because we'll have sessions where we get back together again, because I want to follow through in this, because I think it's a very interesting group, and I think that we're not going to close the group, so the group will carry on, right? So unless anybody leaves, and there's nobody left. But it did make me chuckle, sorry, but when everybody got booted out of the last one, that was funny, wasn't it? Yeah, right. 1 minute I had this great group, and then next minute nobody was in it. I got kicked out of my own group, yeah. So that's quite interesting. You don't own the group when you do a message like that, yeah. So what else? What other takeaways, questions have we got this week?
I'll put stuff into the chat. Are you able to see that
Perfect.
still?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. No
So I put the part in from Donna, and then I also have something from Ross as well.
So I'm just looking at my LinkedIn page at the moment, and it's got something up here that says, "Get started in minutes with $50 in ad credits."
Yeah.
Now, I'm not quite sure what ad credits are and how many I get with $50. Has anybody tried this?
I think it's worth doing it, right? I mean, but like anything, I would use it when you actually know what you're going to do, right? And then it's roughly $3 a click, if I remember rightly. So that means you get 25 clicks from it when you do something on LinkedIn. Yeah. So, I think, I mean, personally, I think there's a space for advertising. I'm not an advertising expert, so I'm the wrong person to talk to about how to get advertising right on LinkedIn. It's not what we do, yeah. Although it's something I would consider, right? But I want it to work. I want it to be effective. I want to know that that's actually going to do what it's supposed to do. Within the LinkedIn ecosystem, and have a measurable return for an investment. I mean, that when you start spending, I mean, you want clear ROIs, yeah. So so I would hold on to that. It's been there for a while, so that it's unlikely they'll take it away. It's not a one-off thing that they're offering there. They do that to get you to have a go at it, yeah. But I would do it once you know what you're trying to achieve from it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So let
Yeah,
me
I
go
mean,
to this question.
ERA, sorry, I was going to say ERA corporate, if you like, so our franchisor does spend money on advertising in LinkedIn, and has a certain amount of success. I've certainly had a couple of leads that they've produced from money that they've spent advertising, but whether at the end of the day it actually leads to any new business, it certainly hasn't led to any new business for me, but it has led to conversations at least.
Yeah, Namrata is saying she's got an understanding how it works, so I mean, just jump in a chat with her, right, and she'll explain it to you. So, I've not done it, right, so I really don't know, and I don't quite understand the rationale behind it. Yeah, and so maybe one of the sessions Namrata can speak 10 minutes or something and tell everybody how it works.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe we can do that and look at that. But yeah, it's interesting. So let me go to Donna's point. Donna here today?
No, these are questions from people that aren't here today.
Yeah, but anyway, it was a good question. For me, it's all about posting trial and error, what lands or not. It's difficult to get a lot of views, no follow-up leads, get clients. Yeah, I don't think it'll get you clients. I've only had one person reach out to me and say, I want to do business with you. I don't think the purpose of this is to do that. Yeah, the purpose of this gets you in front of people. It gets you front of mind. I think you have to proactively be reaching out though, and having conversation and dialogue with people, and have a structure that sits around that to optimize what you're doing here, right? So from a business development perspective, this is really, really critically important because the people will see you. They will engage with you. If you do interesting things, and your people will know what you do. So when you reach out, they'll have a dialogue with you. I get people that I reach out to, and they say, "Yeah, I saw your stuff, right? Okay, I saw what you're doing, right? I'm interested in having a conversation." So yeah, I think strategically, that's why it's not just about posting. I mean, you're all focusing on posting, but really it's about events, it's about communities, it's about groups, it's about how do you strategically create a web that brings it all together, yeah, right? And that's what you've got to be thinking about within your world. It's got to be relevant to the people you're talking to. There's no point in saying, I'm going to create a community if it's not going to work in a community for you. Maybe what happens is you partner with someone else and you create a community, yeah? Okay, maybe you tag on to someone else's community, and we've got a community of 200 CEOs and senior people in Asia, some Scotland, right? We have in one group, and I'm going to bring someone in who's going to be one of our partners on that. And so she'll come in and she'll tag on to what we do and help activate that database and that group, yeah? And she's quite a feisty character. So I think you can do that. So, but I think you've got to be using LinkedIn the right way to get that messages across, what you're doing, you get that, what are you about? So for example, Dave, I still think you've got to be doing stuff that's communicating and building a community around what you do, right? People that have bought from you before, people that could buy from you, people that like your world, yeah, right? And want to be part of a community that sits within what you're doing is really, really useful for you, right? I mean, much more useful than than for some others, right? And maybe like we created you can create a community, a group, right? You can get 5 or 6 together and say, we're going to create a group to do this and build it up, and it grows, right? And it becomes another one of your groups. Because you don't just have one group, you don't just be in one group, yeah, right? You have to be in multiple groups and so on and so forth. So I think it's all about the structure. So for example, we're launching a new course in end of August on a sales course. And so what we'll do is we'll run a series of events, weekly events around business development, and we'll have one event for marketing, one event for sales directors, sales managers, another event for generic SMEs, yeah, right? Another event for professional services that we'll run, and we'll invite these people to that event, yeah, right? We'll get them energized and then get them to start to engage with us about putting bums on seats, yeah? Then I'll go back to the partners and the communities and say, can you help us so you start to create this network, right? that's how you activate, I think, with what Donna was saying there. Yeah. So right, Ross, on Twitter, can you share LinkedIn up from Twitter direct to? I don't know if you can, right? Does anybody know if you can share from Twitter to LinkedIn? I don't think they like each other, eh?
Well, what you tend to do is instead of just sharing directly, open the Twitter directly into a web page and then you share it. But also the problem with sharing directly from one platform to the other is they need different styles of posts and hashtags and everything. It's all completely different. Mm-hmm. And so you need to kind of repost it rather than just take it straight across.
Okay. Yeah, no, cool. Yeah. So, yeah, you wouldn't go straight in. Yeah, you would put your own text at the top and hashtags and so on and so forth. Yeah. I don't see much Twitter though. In fact, I can't think I've ever seen a Twitter post as a post, yeah, on LinkedIn.
Fraser, I have a more basic question related to what Ross is asking there, which is that, like, yesterday I wrote a little article and I thought, because I'm so nervous about this whole thing, I'll share it within the LinkedIn for Leaders private group first, before it goes beyond that group. For the life of me, I couldn't figure out how to just share it within the private group, because there's this big, scary publish button on the right-hand side, and I don't know whether there's options underneath that to just share within the group, or whether as soon as I hit that button, it's going to go everywhere. So I realise this is a mechanics question. If you'd rather answer it just by sending a mail or whatever, fine. But
it's a really good question. There's a simple answer to it. You can disable the post instantly, yeah? So LinkedIn lets you disable a post or an article. You can just stop it. You can remove it. You can take it off straight away, yeah?
Yeah, but how do I get it just to this group rather than to everywhere?
So let me share my screen if you don't mind. Okay. So like when you're starting a post here, just under your name should be this option to choose the group, right? And so you could do LinkedIn for Leaders here. And
yeah, but see that, Monica, I think that only gives me like 300 characters. What I wanted to do is share an article.
Oh, I see.
Just with this group.
Create an article.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
You have to
create an article. An article doesn't have a minimum number of characters, so.
No, that's right. Yeah.
But okay, so but you want to share just the article.
It's not to overthink it. You just experiment. So just do.
So see the big blue publish button on the top right. Yeah.
Yeah, but just wait to write something in the headline. Yeah, so there's just something there, right? And then press publish. Once you've done that. Oh, you need to put some text in.
Okay, so yeah, when you hit publish, you can still do that again here. But it doesn't look like it still has the same options. So
I mean, I just think that, like, people who have got their own private group, you must be able to do this somehow, just so that it doesn't go like everywhere.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, you can't do it. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so just as well you didn't do it. You'd be public. Yeah. Public. I get your content out there, mate. All right. You know, don't don't overthink it. Right. It's only 20 people going to read it anyway. Yeah. So it's yeah, that's, you can do it, or you could do it on your webpage, or there's a variety of ways you could do it. Medium, I've never used Medium Namrata yet, so I used to read it, and then they started charging me for reading it. I was really annoyed because I really liked it. It was really good. So, but yeah, there you go. Question answered. So you can't do it. Right. Anybody else questions?
Yeah, I have a question, more a comment really. Despite having a good number of views on posts, I've taken so far no action on stratifying my database in terms of using the spreadsheet, and I need to catch up on that. I find it actually quite daunting. There's a lot of contacts to have a think about and to categorize, and I suppose that's the barrier. Wondered if you had any thoughts about how to overcome that, or does it just need days of graft?
No. See, it's a really, really, really good question, right? So it's where everybody dies, right? That massive barrier. I think the critical thing is you need to have a process there almost before you set up your database and understand what your process is, because then you know what you need from a database perspective, right? There's 2 or 3 ways you can do this. The way I recommend you do it is you accept that you're not going to get everybody into your database. Okay? So if you've got 3001 and 1,000 another and 500 another, you're probably not going to be able to get everybody out, right? So the way I do it, and the way I recommend people do it, is to keep them all in separate sheets within a spreadsheet, okay? And then on the left-hand column, I put a left-hand column, I put a column there next to the name, and then I use the down key on the thing and I put an X. And I just go down putting an X named next to every name that's important to me in the lists that I've got, yeah? And if I don't know who they are when I'm looking at names, if I can't recognize the name and it doesn't stand out, there's a good chance, right, that it's not relevant anyway, right, you know? So from that, if you've got 2,500 names, to go through 2,500 names like that and put X's next to the ones that you know that you want to pull out, doesn't take that long. It takes an hour max, right? Because you just go bang, X, bang, X, bang, X. You're doing 1 X every 3 seconds, yeah? Right? So once you've got that, you then do a filter and you pull all the names that have got X's out into a separate list. Then you look at those names and you say, right, now let's look at the categories of these. Now, assuming you've got 150 names or 200 names or 300 names, I would then be breaking them down into partner, client, ex-client, lead, someone that I need to talk to, something like that. And then I would just go through all the 150. Monica's got a really great way of creating a drag and drop box. I just go through each of them, click, what are they, get them there, and now you've then got your filtered list, yeah? 2 hours work, done, right? Does that make sense, Rob?
Yeah, it does. I suppose I mean, it's all a psychological barrier, isn't it? So it's a daunting list to break down, but you've got to start.
Yeah.
And I like that. So there's I suppose there's a list in, or a database list potentially in Sales Navigator, and I have a CRM as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have them connected. They don't connect at the moment.
Yeah, they can't connect. It's very difficult to connect. Which CRM do you use?
HubSpot.
So you can connect HubSpot with LinkedIn, right? So you can do that. It's quite easy to do as well. The LinkedIn Navigator thing, yeah, does do that, right, with HubSpot. So, but I wouldn't. The key here is you have to get this working list, right?
Yeah.
So working list is partners. A working list is clients. A working list is ex-clients. A working list is leads. A working list. So a lead is someone you want to see, right? Well, that's all you need, right? That, as a businessman running a partnership, running a professional services, running a software, I need a working list like that, yeah?
That's good. Thanks for that. It gave me some ideas. So
if it's nuts, right? And if it's taking you a long time to go through it, you can go through half the list, okay? And do the X's on that. Let's assume it comes up to 300 names. Perfect, right? Go through that, get your 300 names, pull them out, come back to the other section of the list later and start working on that list. Because the key thing is, if you step into next week not optimizing the names that you've got and using your time effectively, you're wasting the biggest resource you have, which is your time, yeah?
Yeah.
Now, I only know that emphatically because I had this conversation with Monica 15 minutes ago, right? Didn't we? So we're running the course, right? So we got a course. We know it starts in 4 weeks. We got a whole strategy there. Let me share this with you. I'll show you, right, how we sort of wrap our heads around it. Yeah. So you've got marketing, Fraser sales, Mark and Kevin partner sales, mail shot campaign, LinkedIn campaign there. pre-course content community. So you've got a set of things that need to happen, yeah? And then below that, these are the actions that need to happen around this, building databases, making sure that bits and pieces are there. But then ultimately on a weekly basis, we've got to do a certain number of actions that drive people into our funnel, yeah? So it rotates around these things here, yeah? But to do that, you need the lists. To do that, you need the content. To do that, you need certain things to happen that allow you to integrate it all together, you know? So. Now, fortunately, I've got my names out and they're all sitting in CRM. So actually, it's relatively easy. I've got a bit of fine tuning to do with it, but ready to roll, you know? Remembering that I want to do 6 first meetings a week. I want my team to do 4 first meetings each. I want to do 1 event per week. I want to create 3 pieces of content. And I want to have 3 partner meetings each week for the next 4 weeks, yeah? That's an input that will create an output, yeah, if that makes sense, yeah.
Fraser, if I might, you sort of touch on metrics there, which are, how many things do you need to do a week? I don't recall, other than that spreadsheet, maybe is that where you were addressing metrics in the sessions?
Touch on metrics too much with you. We want to look at the metrics of your posts and get you posting regularly, creating one group. So the metrics rotate around your usage of LinkedIn, because what we're trying to do is get you to learn that there's a different way of doing it, start to apply it, and then where you're going now, which is making it your own. I mean, what you're doing is higher learning, right? You're creating a practical model of the usage of LinkedIn. It's just, for me, it's one piece of marketing and business development is how to use LinkedIn well, but sitting within business development marketing is content creation, right? We touched on articles, but how do you create a video? How do you create content, you're right, that's relevant in your community, that your community likes, yeah? And then you've got, how do you manage a sales team? And then you've got, how do we use CRM? And then you've got, how do we do a first meeting with clients? How do you do an event? How do you run an event? So there's pieces that are just as difficult to do as getting LinkedIn right, if that makes sense. Yeah? But I think you've got to break it as bites. You do this, you learn it, you apply it, then you have another bite, you learn it, you apply it, then you have another bite, you learn it, apply it, and then you start to build out the model that actually works for you in a sustainable fashion. You know? Because everyone's different, right? Everyone's got different structure and needs, yeah? So if you're professional services, for me in professional services, I want to be having at least 3 first meetings every week minimum, you know?
Yeah.
Minimum, you know?
I can set myself the goal by the end of August, really, to have that both Sales Navigator well categorized and HubSpot CRM well categorized. So I know what I'm doing with strategically with those content, and also to get in what is my process overall, what is the process overall, and then that'll all fit together.
It does. And then after that, what's my nurture model on an ongoing basis? So Dave brings in someone that comes to his event, right? And he pays him a lot of money to come there and has a really great time, yeah? How does Dave nurture him for the next 10 years? How does he create humanized contact with them? How does he engage? How does he, what does he do with them, right? That's the thing, because once someone's a client, they should be a client forever, yeah? But there's pieces, right? I mean, it's not that it's difficult, right? It isn't difficult. But then again, being a lawyer is not difficult if you know what you're doing. Being an engineer is not difficult if you know what you're doing. Being a marketing person is not difficult if you understand, you know how Google works, how it comes together, and you've practiced it and evolved the model here, right? So, right, Cara, you're really quiet there. Questions?
I'm feeling a bit behind the group. I've had a particularly time-pressured tasks from clients. I'm doing lots of marketing, but for other people, and feeling distinctly behind in my homework for doing it for my own brand. So I'm applying lots of the lessons for for other people, and noticing everyone else's posts and feeling like I'm not doing nearly enough myself.
Yeah, you just got to work out. There's a balance that you need to do, and there's a minimum in the amount of time you've got, and you just need to sit down. You actually need to plan that out, right? It's what is my output? You can see what I showed you earlier. I've got a minimum set of targets week by week for 4 weeks. I have to do that. I have to achieve that. It will take me about 3 hours a day of my time or 4 hours a day of my time to do that for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
If I was, you know, in a normal world, I'd allocate about 2 hours a day to do about 40% less than that. Yeah.
My client roles are quite distinct as well, so I'm trying to find the balance in terms of my own personal brand. I know others have discussed their headlines, and mine's really quite vague, but that's because I'm struggling to reconcile the fact that my work is moving in quite different directions. So, you know, with my own personal brand, I know I've got a bit of work to do to think about that strategically in terms of how do I want to present myself, and what sort of mix of posts and themes do I need to focus on. So definitely quite a bit of planning work to get that set out, and then I can build that consistency and make it a habit.
You do search for 2 posts around what you're thinking that you find from somewhere else, 2 articles, and then you just do a really nice post like everyone's doing. You know, a bit of thought. It takes 10 minutes, 15 minutes to do that, I would think. Namrat, that's how long it takes you to do, isn't it? Yeah. Right, and that's your hour a week job done, right? And that's a nice minimum standard, 2 a week, and it keeps your hand in, keeps you thinking about what you're doing, and you know, keeps that momentum. But I also think you've got to be thinking of groups. You've got to be thinking of the events here, right, as well. I think events are really important, because events are like the glue that cross people into your world. So as soon as someone engages with you and registers for an event or shows interest in it, you've now got a very different relationship with the person. We sort of look at it as crossing the line. Yeah, they've changed. Yeah, right. You know. So once
I used the events. Just a comment. I used the event system for the first time last week, and filled up an event, which was really a really good result for the first time.
Fabulous. Yeah, it's really a good system. Yeah, I really like it a lot. Yeah. So I think it's fantastic. Yeah. So the events piece is particularly good. We have a group, the CEO forum, and the numbers were dropping. It was like really frustrating. We were messaging people, and Catherine does all the messaging, and it was driving her nuts because she was having to send like 600 messages. Yeah. And then I just said, we're not doing this anymore. If people don't want to come, that's fine. Yeah. And then what we did was we just tagged 600 people, right, and said, or not even that, 250 people in the messaging tool, and we had 50 people sort of signed up. Yeah. So I think it's not that people don't like messaging. I think it's the events tool works particularly well if you set it up the right way. Yeah. Messaging doesn't seem to be we stopped that, right? We won't do that anymore, yeah? Unless it's a personal message. Also, what happens when you send a message and then you send another one, it goes in their feed, right? And then they see you just inviting them to events, right? It's not so good, yeah? Right, next question. Thoughts, statement, topic?
I have a question on posting videos. I'm now starting to do more videos on social media. And I'm finding I'm getting, when I say social media, sorry, Facebook and Instagram particularly, and I'm finding I'm getting quite a lot of engagement through that and people asking more questions. I think we did touch a little bit on videos. I just wondered if anyone else has had any experience of sharing videos through LinkedIn.
Yeah, I did 100 videos in 100 days, yeah, right? And I found that the impact was very low, yeah.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't
Was
impressive.
that because of the sheer number, or is it just because, were they long, short, were they, what sort of length were they?
A minute each. They were professionally edited. The people that did watch them really liked them, yeah. I didn't get the feeling, yeah, right, that LinkedIn was a video platform, yeah, right, you know, the same as Facebook and the same as Instagram, yeah.
Okay.
It was just my experience. I was really disappointed, right, because I got this guy in Edinburgh who's a fantastic video editor and film director, And I think he did a really good job of pulling it together. And I think the content was interesting. And I think it didn't have high impact. It was good for my brand, right? It was really super, right? I mean, people really saw me, right? But it wasn't as effective as I thought it would be. And we did it all the way LinkedIn-like, right? So we did it, we embedded the videos in LinkedIn, right? We didn't do a YouTube link. So I wasn't so happy with the result from that. But I like the videos. I think videos are good, right? I couldn't get it to work. It didn't go right for us. Yeah. So, what was annoying was the people that liked it a lot, right? And commented, and they would watch it every time it came out, but it was a very small number. So I think it just doesn't get enough in front of enough people, and they can't absorb quickly enough what it's about. Yeah.
Okay.
To be able to make a decision to watch it. Yeah. I really like video, right? I think video is a really important tool, but I don't think it's quite what it's cracked out to be. I think the written word's the most powerful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I want to take away your idea, John. Yeah.
No, it's just interesting as a platform. If it's working on other channels for me, definitely. It's just really whether LinkedIn, I know there's, for example, Jamie at Essence of Paris uses video more now on LinkedIn. He seems to get quite a lot of reaction, but he is fairly active on LinkedIn anyway. So I just wondered if anyone else had that experience.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Look, I think like anything, you've just got to try it, right? You do 10 and you see what happens, right? And maybe I was going about it the wrong way, and maybe my introduction was too long, and maybe we didn't boost it. I don't know, right? You just and it's an experiment, right? You have a go and you try it, so you see how you get on.
Yeah. Thanks.
Fraser, I wonder how much. I think last week you commented, or somebody did, about LinkedIn being quite generational in the fact that young people aren't using it.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder how much that the engagement with video is more around that than anything else. Because I saw your videos; they were great. I find that I don't, unless a video really grabs me on the first frame, I don't tend to watch it. No. And most people, I think, have autoplay switched off. So, you've really got to be good to get that sort of hook to get them to actually watch it.
I think you're right, and I think it's a really good point, right? And it's really worth a discussion. It's that first hook, right, that gets you in there. Watching it, and even I'm the same, right? I've got people that I know that post videos regularly, and I like their stuff, but can't be bothered watching 4 minutes, right? So maybe there's something there for 30 seconds, bang, right? This 15-second thing, right? I was toying with the idea today, actually. I was saying, let's do 15 seconds, like this, where you just put one quick message across, and then it repeats, right? And off you go. Try that, I don't know, So, but I think you're right, Duncan. I think it's a different generation, and I think we do video differently, But maybe you're younger than I am, Yeah. So, but I think you've got to experiment, right? I think you've got to have a go and post it. I mean, if you've got videos already, John, right? Just post them, and see what happens.
Fraser, this week I came across the most commented post I've ever seen on LinkedIn. And it was a guy who had come in at 2 o'clock in the morning, put a post about a personal thing, how after 20 years in business, he'd been out pissed and realised that what kids really wanted wasn't the flash cars, wasn't the big house, it was time. It was very personal for him. But the response was outstanding. I've never seen a response like it.
Yeah,
so I just wonder.
Well, it's a really good point, and I think that's what Russell does brilliant. Russell's on holiday, by the way, if you're wondering where he is. So, but I think that's what Russell is a genius at. That's why I really like doing this with Russell, because I tend to become a bit more technical, and he tends to. Although I do a lot of writing, and I understand the written word and can write, but Russell does it absolutely brilliantly, and how he frames his messages. Right, So Yeah, you know, you just got to personalize it. The more you personalize it, the more you I think the more personal you get it, relevant to business, people click with that, right? That's, you read it and you click, right? You know, we got to be thinking, what do we like? Right? What we were reading something. What are we actually saying? Yeah. I think it's a really good point, Martin. Yeah. And if we took Monica, you know what we should do? We should get everybody at the end of this to post in the group. We'll have a session in the group where we'll all agree to do it at the same time, to repost in the group the 2 articles they posted that were most popular, yeah? Okay? And then let's take the phrases, the first sentence, yeah, right? And then have a look at them, yeah, right? You know, and see if there's a commonality there in the language and the tone and what's happening between 60 people, yeah? Because I suspect you'll find, yeah, right, that the algorithm and the way you articulate what you're doing, yeah, right? LinkedIn likes that and gets it in front of people, yeah?
Yeah, I'll keep notes.
Yeah, I think we should do something like that. It's a really good idea. Get them all. We can get 120 and just down. I know. Well, even if we get 1 right each, your most popular 1 right actually for 60, and then we can see, get the heading there and see put the heading with it, and let's have a look at what the headings are. Right?
Let's clarify that later.
Yeah. Right. Questions? So where do you all want to go from here, right? Archie, where do you take this here, right? You know, where do you go now, right?
So, Fraser, I'm really keen to understand the benefits of Navigator, because either I'm not using it properly, and I should do, because, you know, 70 quid a month, I could use that money elsewhere. And, you know, I've got something like 2,500 contacts already. Maybe that's a reservoir enough that I can go chase their contacts and actually generate 10, 20,000. So what are the benefits of Navigator over not having it?
So the first thing with Navigator is the advanced search, okay? So it allows you to, if you know what your target market is, and you know who buys your product, you can drill down to those and connect with them. You can go to size of company, you can go to the industry, the vertical, the role, you really can drill down, and that's really, really important, right? And that's worth its money in its own, as an ability to do that. If you don't need that, then you don't need it, right? So the second advantage of Navigator, and the thing we use it for, is holding our database in a format that allows us to engage with people in a more personalized way. So we have lists and tags. So we put people on a list and we tag them, right? So I'll tag them as an SME, or I'll tag them as a professional services partner, or I'll tag them as a sales director, I'll tag them as a manager, and I can have them on a list, and then I can engage with that list, yeah? Okay. I'll show you what I mean, because it's a really good question, right? Yeah. It's so Catherine works really closely with me on this. And so we have our lists here. So if we look at founders in Scotland, you see I've got a founders list there in Scotland, okay? And I've got a list of everybody, 128 founders in Scotland. So I can engage with them from a content perspective. I can invite them to an event. They're already pre-filtered. I can go in here, I can send a message, I can do a variety of things with him that's personal around him, and it becomes very easy to interact with them,
Yep.
So it allows me to go to them, to work my way halfway through. Let's say I send a message to each of them saying whatever I'm saying, right? And I get to row 3, list 3, and I stop there because I'm too busy. I haven't got time. I just come back to it later, and then I go to 4, and then I carry on, right? Whereas what you've got to do, right, is you've got, without Navigator, right? If I want to go founders, okay, and then I want to filter locations. So I want to go to, I don't know if I can do Scotland. Let's see if I can do it. I can't do it. See, United Kingdom. Let's do Edinburgh. It's really annoying you can't filter Scotland, eh? And then I would put in here first connections. So I've got 109, right? Now, in theory, I could go through these, but as I send a message to each of them, if I stop halfway through that list, it becomes problematic, right? I can't manage that. Now, the second thing Navigator lets you do is it lets you track the lists, and you can track your target market. We don't do it that much, but you can track your target market of what they're doing whenever they do a post, whenever they do anything. It'll tell you they've done it, yeah? Which then allows me to have a nurture point with them, yeah?
No, you've just sold it to me. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Cheers. I've wasted the last 6 months.
It took me a long time to work it out. I had it for 2 years. And I have to thank Catherine for this. She's the one that got best practice. Yeah, so.
Thanks, Catherine. Thank you.
But it's really, really useful. Now, I have the Navigator synced with my CRM, yeah? So I could go to all of the founders in Scotland and bounce them a quick message and say, hey, Dave, just touch and base, see how things are. Then I could send you a mail shot on my Salesforce and my sales box, right, my CRM, and I could follow up that a day later with bounce your message on LinkedIn, yeah, right, thought it'd be great to touch base, blah, 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 and I can engage with you, yeah?
Lisa, you asked me what my activity was. There's two approaches I have to LinkedIn, and one of them Russell had talked about during the training when he was looking at identifying contacts for a conference. So one of the strands I have is business development, sort of proactive, looking out contacts that I know are in areas that we're currently doing some quite innovative work around greenhouse gas measurement and management, or carbon footprinting linked to climate change. So I've got a list of key people that I want to reach out to, get connected with, and then we'll put up results and analysis and stories about what we've been doing. So it's that sort of proactive business development. Going back to some of the earlier comments, do I think that will lead to someone coming back and saying, can you tender for a project? No, I don't think it will. I think it's far more, LinkedIn's far more subtle than that. It's just about your being on people's radars. And the second area, so that's the proactive approach of going out and specifically hunting for or identifying people I want to link with. There's a more of a passive approach, which is just working just now. We've been approached out the blue for an international contract, and you can see the people that are involved in this project who I've never met before, looking at your profile just to find out a wee bit more about you. So there's that sort of passive element that you have that presence, you have a profile or a portfolio of activity that people can dip in and just like that find out something about someone that they've never met before, but they could be working very closely with on quite a large international project. So that's the two strands that I have. I have to say I got training a few years ago in social media, and one of the suggestions that's always stuck with me is spend about half an hour on this a day, because you've got a day job as well that pays the bills. And this is just one of a strand of sort of brand awareness profile activity that you do. So I'm not as active as some of the others that I see your regular posts, but I just do a wee bit in the morning and then a wee bit later in the day, and that's it. Because this is just one strand of that profile work. So that you asked what my takeaways from this and what I'm doing, and that's my approach to all of this.
And I really like it, and I think it works beautifully with what you're describing there. I think the key is to systemize it. Personally, I'd get Navigator if I was you, if that's what you're doing. And I'd have the target list in Navigator, right? So I would be reaching out to people that you know are going to be interested in that. When you first connect with them, say, hey, Fraser, really cool to connect. I see you're in this space. That's why I reached out to you. How are things for you guys at the moment? Have that sentence. Monica's going to organize a training session on how to have conversations on LinkedIn. I then say to them, the reason I connected is that I want to share content with you. I want to have you in the loop of what we're doing. Yeah, right. You know, do you mind if I do that over the next period of time? And when we have events on, invite you to it. And then the third thing I do is I create a group, greenhouse gas group. Yeah, invite them to join the group. Just keep it narrow like that. You don't need to do anything else, right? It's perfect, right? The narrower your world is, the better, right?
Thanks.
Yeah. So, but it's nice, right? But you want to have it systemized. So you want to know, right, that I've got 400 connections that are all greenhouse gas people, and you might find you have 4 groups in Navigator. So you might have one group that specializes in blah 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 area, another group specializes in another area, another specialist. So you just share the content that's relevant to them as you create, find it, and do it like that. Yeah, right. And when you maybe don't do it every week, but maybe once a month, you sit for an hour. Catherine, how long does it take to share a piece of content with 700 people?
Well, it depends on if you're adding in like extra PDFs or stuff. So between 2 and 3 hours.
About 3 hours, right? So to send 700 messages.
Yeah, especially if you're changing each message a little bit, like closer to 3, I would say.
So, but the point of that is that's 700, right? If you're working with a small group, 150, 200 people, you know, it becomes very easy to communicate with them, right? You know, it's, you know, and I do a webinar once every 3 months and get an expert speaker in, right? You know, about that topic. Yeah. And that'd be how I do it, right? And then you just become a HubSpot of knowledge, right? It's like Tom's doing something similar to that from an oil and gas perspective, yeah? And I don't think it would take a lot of time to do that, right? When we're running an event, when you bring an expert speaker, and it's really cool because you don't have to do this presentation. So I get them to talk for 15 minutes Q&A, which usually goes 20, 25 minutes, and then session over, yeah? And then you can take the content and you can then share that with all the group that didn't make it, yeah? Right, there you go. Sorry, Archie, I've given you a whole lot of work. Sorry. Right, any other questions? Namrata, you've always got questions.
I do actually. It's just one. It's once you sort of connect with people, one of the things that I found a little bit hard is how do you retain that connection apart from a group? Because I reach out to a lot of people who are in quite different industries. So there's not really one thing unifying them together. So how do I sort of keep in touch with these people? Is it sharing a piece or getting them to interact? What are your tips on that?
Yeah, so what made Archie special, right? This is why I picked in you, Archie, sorry, right? But it's because it's so narrow, it's about greenhouse, right? So it becomes very easy to create a world around that because you've just got a bubble that sits in that world. And there's a lot of things you can do because it's narrow, right? And Dave can do the same thing because it's a bubble, right? He sits within an area this is what he does, and people that are interested in that are interested. But it's easier for Archie to find people on LinkedIn that are interested in this than Dave, yeah, right? So I think you know, once you find that sweet spot of the people, you then build that group and that community that sits around that language. And for you, Namrata, I think you've got to break each of the segments into areas.
Yeah.
And be specific on an area, right? So you sit and you say, I want to deal with retail furniture, high-end furniture that costs maybe an average of $1,000 a chair or $500 a chair. It's something that's more expensive, yeah. You know, whatever is expensive looks like in your world, right? And then you then build a community that sits around those, yeah, right? So you create a language around that that's not just your business, yeah.
Mm.
So I'm doing a session on Wednesday next week on video creation, right? We'll send an invite to everybody, yeah. But on how to create a video, it's 90 minutes. I've got a videographer who specializes in making video, and we're going to do a session of how to how to, and some of it you've done already because we're going to touch on LinkedIn and how to post it, but how to actually create a video and go down that road, but where you get taught by a professional video guy to do it, and then at the end of the session, you create a video. So it's not what we do, right? But our community love it, yeah, right? Marketing people really like it. Sales directors like it, yeah. Professional services like it. We can invite them all, yeah, right? So in doing things like that, you can then start to engage with the communities. I think the challenge is everyone's transactional by nature. We all are transactional. We're all selfish. We're all thinking about our own businesses. Unless we consciously switch that off and start to pay attention to what the clients are doing, yeah. I mean, we all think we're not, but the reality is we are, right? But it just is what it is, right? We don't mean to be, right? But human nature rationalizes itself usually like that. So the key is to think about the client, right? Where they're at. I like to, we're going to really push hard on this, is start a dialogue with people, but not book a meeting with them, but have a conversation about what they're doing, create an interaction, and then ask them permission to engage with them over time, yeah?
Yeah, that would be helpful, actually.
You know, and then they then go into CRM as in someone that we actually have a section CRM cross the line, yeah, right? So people that are engaging with us and don't mind communication from us, yeah. Because 50% of people you talk to don't want to talk to anyway, right? They're not engaging, and we want to create a language around it, yeah. We want to create a reason for them to pay attention to what I'm saying here, right? You know. And then I can refer back. We talked about this back then. I've got an event on, thought you might enjoy it, you know? Or, you know, and then start to drive that interactivity. You know, so for us, we're very strategic, but then this is what our job is building sales models, yeah, right? So we're very strategic and want to be even more strategic about nurtures and touch points and permission. Not from a PDPA perspective, because I can engage with people on LinkedIn. I don't have to, it's not PDPA, it's not an issue, right? They give permission, yeah? So the question though is, I want them to give permission because then that then validates me reaching out to them and touching base with them, yeah? But then it needs to be interesting. It needs to be, we're doing this about video. If you feel like coming along or getting your team to come along, let me know. Or we're doing this, or, you know, stuff that's relevant, that's a little bit, that's fascinating, or an expert from PwC, or, you know, I had a Google guy in and he was fantastic, right? You know, right, talking about what Google are doing and what they've learned about time management, yeah. Yeah, does that help, Namrata?
Yeah, it definitely does. I think getting the message on how to engage with people and getting their permission is something that I think I'll try out.
Yeah. So we're going to cover the messaging in a session, right? But there's a really, really critical thing that sits around messaging people when you have the conversations with them about personalizing the conversation. It's very difficult to do. No one does it consistently, apart from people we sort of train to do it. And even then, like today, we were doing a session with a team that they've got a really strict manager, and we drilled this into them. And then I look at their messages today because I haven't checked them for 4 days, and they're terrible, right? They're cut and paste, yeah. And I'm like, guys, you know, you're only getting 20 connections a day, right? You really got to use these. They're a precious resource. Putting a cut and paste message in there is not acceptable, yeah? Yeah, thanks, Dave. Nice to see you, mate. Hey, wait. I need 2 volunteers for Friday at 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 in the morning, something like that, where you sit on a panel, yeah, right? Can anybody help me out? I need 2 people that are using LinkedIn, right, to sit in a panel for about 30 minutes, yeah?
I'd be happy to do it if yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. So I'll give you the details. David, right? Name's Dan, Monica, right? Or Catherine, and that'd be really helpful. That was what I changed this thing around for. I'm really sorry, right? I totally screwed it up, right? And it's the Management University of Singapore as well, right? So I'm like, I don't know what I did, right? So anyway, right. So we've got a session next week where we're going to wrap this up. We might push it, right? Because I want Russell to be in the final session, right? So I'm not sure if he's back next week, okay? So Monica, we need to just firm that up. But I'm going to use this session for the hours training on messaging next week, okay? Right? So those of you who want to come in and go through how to send a message, how to craft it, how to create engagement, that's what we're going to do, the subtlety, that what sits around that, yeah? Brilliant. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Colin. I appreciate the message. It's really kind of you. And Namra, really, thanks for the feedback on the stuff. I want to talk to you about that, by the way. Yeah, so it's really good, right?
And I've sent the LinkedIn messaging invite for Monday, so that's there, and it's also in the group. So
sorry, on Monday, what did you say?
For the LinkedIn messaging. So
I was going to change it. Why don't we? Have you sent that already? Yeah.
Yes, you told me Monday.
I did. Yeah, I've just had a thought. Why don't we do it next Wednesday? Because I'm not sure if Russell's back next week. Yeah. And then we can do the final session the week after with Russell, right? Because I really want Russell in the last session, right? So everyone can pick his brain, right? And stuff. Are we too late to cancel that?
I've got nobody responses.
Sorry. See, I'm so blurry, right? You know.
Well, but I don't think Russell needs to be in the messaging, right? So
he doesn't need to. So we do that.
So we could just leave that.
Okay, leave that. That's fine then. Do that.
And
Yep.
the following.
Good idea.
Okay.
And then cancel Wednesday, and we'll do the Wednesday after with everybody, and that gives everybody plenty of notice. Yeah.
Okay.
Done. Because we want Russell, and everybody wants Russell, right? You know?
Yeah.
It's fantastic, right? So.
Okay.